Financial Secretary Paul Chan says the current market volatility does not warrant any drastic measures after Hong Kong stocks mark their biggest fall in almost 3 decades. Other markets across Asia get hammered amid fears of an escalating trade war, feeling the ripple effects of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff turmoil. And more than 50 nations have reached out to the United States after sweeping tariffs rolled out by Trump sent supply chains into a tailspin. Good evening. You're now watching Cable News. I'm Cheryl Yun. The tariff card played by U.S. President Donald Trump sent Hong Kong stocks crumbling down like a house of cards. The benchmark Hang Seng Index slumped 13.2% to drop below 20,000 points, marking its biggest decline since October 1997. Evelyn Bai reports.
Shares of all 83 companies, which constitute the Hang Seng Index, declined on the first trading day after Beijing announced retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods last week. Financial Secretary Paul Chan has reassured that the city's stock market will remain stable operations.
Basically, the market has been functioning orderly. There are substantial selling but as well as buying interests. The spread between the two has been very tight, indicating that the buying power remains very strong. We do not think the current volatility in the market warrant any drastic measures to be taken.
The Hang Seng China Enterprises Index, which tracks 50 mainland companies, including the nation's 6 big banks, plunged 13%. Biotech firm WuXi Biologics logged a remarkable decline of 26%, while computer maker Lenovo Group dropped 22%. Electric car maker BYD was down $59.60, and rival Geely Auto shed 21%. Tech stocks experienced heavy sell-off, with Alibaba down 17%, Tencent dropping 12%, Xiaomi declining 20%, and Meituan falling 14%. A potential trade slowdown took its toll on logistics, with Shenzhou International Group down 11% and Orient Overseas Container Line sliding 13%. Mainland stocks were also in the firing line, with the Shanghai Composite Index taking its biggest dive in 5 years, falling 7%. In response to the market turmoil, state-owned sovereign wealth fund Central HOYIBC Investment expressed strong confidence in the future capital market, increasing its holdings in exchange-traded funds to stabilize the market. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
Other markets within the Asia-Pacific region also nosedived on fears of an escalating trade war, which could spiral out of control. The savage sell-off across the board has taken a toll on all business sectors. Jeremy Zhu tells us more.
Tokyo's Nikkei 225 index lost nearly 8% shortly after the market opened, and futures trading for the benchmark was briefly suspended. When the market closed, Japanese stocks were down 7.8%, shedding more than 2,600 points, hitting an 18-month low. In South Korea, the Korea Composite Stock Price Index triggered circuit breakers after falling over 5%. Eventually, the Kospi Index plunged 5.5%. Authorities in Seoul and Tokyo pledged support for businesses hit by rising U.S. tariffs. However, Wyman Learn, investment director at Athena Best Financial Group, expressed skepticism to iCable News about the effectiveness of government efforts, stating that the U.S. tariffs are simply too high and the impact on exporters is severe. The market still can't assess whether the damage is over, he added. Singapore's Straits Times Index extended its losing streak, plunging more than 325 points or 8.5%. The drop marked the benchmark's largest intraday loss since the 8.9% plunge during the 2008 financial crisis and exceeded the 8.4% decline during the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020. Australia's S&P ASX 200 fell 4.2% to end the day at 7,343 points. The benchmark slid into correction territory with an 11% decline since its last high 2 months earlier. Commodities were equally volatile, with oil prices extending losses for a third day at a 4-year low, falling below $60 a barrel, while gold retreated below $3,000 per ounce. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Back locally, the Civil Aviation Department has introduced new regulations for carrying power banks on board aircraft. Starting today, travelers cannot use or recharge such devices during flights. Jeremy Zhu reports.
On the very first day, Hong Kong Airlines displayed notices at their check-in counters to explain the changes. Cathay Pacific and Greater Bay Airlines have also updated their websites with the relevant information. It is mandatory for all SAR airlines to follow the new guidelines of the Civil Aviation Department. Under the new regulations, power banks cannot be a part of the check-in baggage. Passengers would have to keep power banks on them before they store their cabin luggage in the overhead lockers. Power banks can be stored in the front seat pocket, but charging and use of such devices is prohibited in flight. One passenger said he was not too concerned as he ensures his phone is fully charged before boarding and typically switches it off during flights. Another man said the rule would have little impact on short-haul flights, but suggested improvements for long-haul journeys, such as installing more charging ports on board.
We're so reliant on batteries and full power, so that, like for example, I have alarms, and so not to have access to a backup power can change my trip and change any planning for my trip. I use it for my payments, for my phone, and also everything to do with my ID and my travel ticket.
The new regulations were implemented following an incident last month where a Hong Kong Airlines flight was forced to make an emergency landing in Fuzhou after a portable charger stored in the overhead compartment caught fire. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Organizers of the 4 Coldplay concerts, which will be held at the Kai Tak Stadium starting tomorrow, have laid down some ground rules for fans before they head to the venue. Making the announcement on social media, organizers Live Nation Entertainment said fans would be allowed to carry reusable water bottles or cups made of plastic or silicone with a maximum capacity of 600 milliliters. Disposable plastic, glass, or thermal bottles are prohibited. Other restricted items include professional cameras, electronic tablets, binoculars, banners, and signs. With the first concert taking place tomorrow, the British band will also have performances on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, starting at 8 p.m. The Transport Department has urged concert-goers to plan their journeys in advance. The MTR will provide additional services on its Tuen Ma Line and East Rail Line. Police have advised fans to use public transport. Those heading to Lo Wu must board their train at Kai Tak MTR station by 11:01 p.m. Vivian Cheung, Acting Chief Executive of the Airport Authority, has been officially confirmed for the post today after her appointment was approved by Chief Executive John Lee. Cheung, who had been the Airport Authority's Chief Operating Officer since 2022, had also been doubling up as Acting Chief Executive since last year, succeeding Fred Lam, who was promoted to Chairman. The 64-year-old who joined in 1992 will helm the Airport Authority for the next 3 years. Secretary for Transport and Logistics Mabel Chan extended a warm welcome and expressed confidence that under Cheung's leadership, Hong Kong International Airport will further strengthen its leading position as an international aviation hub. With more than 30 years of experience in airport management, Cheung has held a number of senior positions at the airport and is also a member of the Town Planning Board and the Hong Kong Trade Development Council's Infrastructure Development Advisory Committee. Financial Secretary Paul Chan said Hong Kong is committed to driving forward the sustainable and responsible development of Web3 and artificial intelligence.
Hong Kong's approach to Web3 is not simply about regulation. We aim to strike a balance, ensuring market integrity without stifling innovation. After all, innovation entails risks. The lesson we have learned is that we need to put it under a balanced regulatory framework so as to enable the sector to grow in a responsible and sustainable manner.
Speaking at the Hong Kong Web3 Festival at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Centre, Chen revealed that the government will unveil a second policy statement on the development of virtual assets later this year, covering how to make use of Web3 to fast-track the enhancement of traditional financial services, empower the real economy, and strengthen the application of digital asset technologies. Featuring forums and exhibits focusing on Web3 technologies, the 4-day event concludes on Wednesday.
More than 50 countries have sought negotiations with the United States after tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump on America's trading partners sent shockwaves through the global economy, endangering crucial supply chains.
I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something.
Comparing his actions to medicine, Trump's sweeping tariffs have triggered a meltdown in financial markets around the world.
I spoke to a lot of leaders, European, Asian, from all over the world. They're dying to make a deal. But I said, we're not going to have deficits with your country. We're not going to do that, because to me a deficit is a loss. We're going to have surpluses, or we're at worst going to be breaking even.
Despite stocks on Wall Street ending 5% lower last Friday, Trump insisted that the U.S. has grown stronger.
We will be taking in over $1 trillion over the next short period of time with the tariffs that I've already instituted. They're already in place. Now, what's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger.
The European Union is nearing a decision to impose retaliatory tariffs on up to $28 billion worth of U.S. imports. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the EU remains committed to negotiating but stands ready to defend its interests with proportionate countermeasures.
Hong Kong stocks saw its biggest drop since 1997. The Hang Seng Index plunged 3,021 points to close at 19,828 points. On to the weather now. Cloudy periods in the morning. The minimum temperature will be about 20 degrees tomorrow, mainly fine and rather warm during the day. The maximum temperature will be around 26 degrees. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our news tonight. I'm Cheryl Yun. Thanks for watching and good night.